Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Today, I'm super excited to bring to you Dr. Bryan Sexton. And Bryan, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you because we I don't think we actually met in Boston at the Patient Experience Symposium a few months ago, but I got to hear you present, and I thought anybody who can crunch hard data with Game of Thrones references is somebody that I would really like to have on the podcast. So welcome, and I'd love to get into some of your background and such. Can you give us your some of your bona fides and what you do
Sure.
and
Sure.
what you were doing at the Patient Experience Symposium?
Well, I have kind of a weird history. I'm a psychologist faculty here at Duke in the Department of Psychiatry, and I do well-being research for healthcare workers, like looking at how burned out healthcare workers are, how we measure that, but also how we can address it, interventions to help alleviate burnout. And my history is a circuitous one. I started off my career doing flight safety, like looking at why planes crash, and got really bored. It takes something like 7 million departures for there to be a fatality. Whereas you can camp outside an emergency room anywhere in the country for a couple of days, and like 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 4 people who go through our healthcare system experience some form of untoward event. And we're trying to kind of do a better job of eliminating those undesirable outcomes. So as a young researcher, I kind of shifted away from flight safety and moved into patient safety. And to make a long story short, we figured out over time that patient safety starts with the well-being of the healthcare workers. And rather than give them new checklists and new projects and new quality improvement initiatives, we should make sure we're putting gas back in their tank so that they can do what they got into healthcare to do in the first place, which was deliver safe and evidence-based care.
What a crazy concept,
Right?
right? That our patient safety improves, that our patients' experiences improve if the caregivers are well taken care of, happy, satisfied, engaged, right? What a crazy concept. And
Yeah,
I say that obviously facetiously, but that's not this is, while it seems like it's very understandable and basic, this is not yet caught on everywhere.
true. Yeah, and I mean it was a quite an effort to get people to focus on patient safety kind of in the late 90s. And as we transitioned into kind of 2003, 4, and 5, we had the Institute of Medicine, now the National Academy of Medicine. The IOM report came out basically saying somewhere between 44,000 and 98,000 Americans die every year from medical error. We're not really sure what the exact number is because we don't measure it very well. We don't track it very effectively. And at the time, in the late 90s, there weren't journals dedicated to patient safety. There weren't budgets dedicated to patient safety officers or training for patient safety officers. We didn't have career pathways for people interested in patient safety or patient related quality improvement. Whereas today, you're hard pressed to find a hospital that doesn't have a patient safety officer, right, or a process to deal with undesirable outcomes for patients. So there's been a lot of progress in a relatively short period of time. And I kind of look at the well-being journey in a similar light, but we can't take 20 years to figure out the well-being the way we took 20 years to figure out patient safety and patient-centered care. I think we have to kind of accelerate our learning a little bit for this most recent kind of Pandora's box of healthcare workforce well-being.
So you've done some cool stuff at Duke, and that's what I was hoping you could share with the audience today, on well-being of the caregivers. And so, can you give us a little synopsis, maybe a thumbnail sketch of what I got to hear you discuss in Boston?
Yeah. So, I, first of all, let me just say I'm a big fan of things like yoga and meditation. I've taken multiple mindfulness courses myself. You can pick up great tools from those sources, but those are heavy lifts. Those are hard things to do. Diet, exercise, yoga, and meditation, they all work and they're all very hard to do, right? They take effort, they take energy and initiation energy, which is exactly what we don't have when we're burned out, right? It's hard to do heavy things or to lift heavy things when you're kind of just your battery is low. And what we started doing back in 2014 was we sifted through over 200 different interventions to find ones that met our kind of bite-sized criteria. And bite-sized for us meant that it's brief, simple, you feel the benefit right away, and the benefits endure. You don't just feel better for an afternoon, but you also feel better 6 months and 12 months later. And we started doing randomized controlled trials on healthcare workers to show that, yeah, we can use these bite-sized strategies to cause improvements in well-being that come relatively quickly and endure for a long time. And so that was the genesis of it. We've now expanded the number of interventions from just a handful at first to now we have over 20 unique bite-sized interventions. And these are things like cultivating relationships or cultivating gratitude or cultivating a sense of awe and wonder in the world around you. Or we have one for sleep, we have one for work-life balance. There's lots of different options to choose from, but none of them take much initiation energy, and they're all evidence-based. And it gives, I think, healthcare workers that are just feeling kind of downtrodden an opportunity to choose a well-being adventure for themselves that resonates. That's like, introverts and extroverts might seek out different types of interventions or different ways of spending their time to cultivate well-being. And with every year that goes by, we kind of expand the list of options that they have to choose from. And I think that's where the science is exciting.
So what's your findings?
So, first of all, we know that the pandemic, was associated with quite a blow to the chin for well-being. We saw emotional exhaustion rates went up about 9 percentage points, which is a lot. It's rare that we've seen. We've never seen an increase like that before. But to have it increase so much so quickly was that, to use that wonderful pandemic word, it was unprecedented. So 9-point increase from before the pandemic to now. But we know we can cause emotional exhaustion to go back down using these bite-sized strategies by 10, 12, 13, 14 points is our most recent intervention. 14-point reduction. That's
amazing is what that is.
Yeah, what took 3 years for the pandemic, we can do in 10 days with bite-sized interventions, and that gives me hope. I can clarify too what the interventions are. For example, we have one for self-compassion, which is that voice in your head that's sometimes unfriendly and not very helpful to us. We've actually using a 10-minute long. It's like a 7 to 10 minute long intervention with one dose of self-compassion for 7 to 10 minutes. Prompts what we call emotional recovery, your ability to bounce back after upheaval quite substantially. And the intervention looks like this. We ask people to spend that 7 to 10 minutes writing themselves a letter as if they were writing it to a friend, because you would never talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself in your own head. And that simple shift really recalibrates the way you kind of process and think about things that are happening in your life, and provides a surprising amount of therapeutic effect, especially given that it's such a short-term thing. You do it one time for 7 minutes, and we can measure changes in you, a week later and a month later, and that's exciting. But if that's not your jam, we have ones where you cultivate awe and wonder. That could be watching a really good sleight of hand, or looking at scenes from nature, looking at images from the James Webb Space Telescope, or scenes from kind of national parks that just kind of inspire a sense of awe and wonder. And that too has a recalibrating effect for your well-being. It helps you to kind of recharge that battery and experience some recovery after emotional upheaval. We have similar things for sleep hygiene and for work-life balance and for cultivating relationships, cultivating gratitude. So there's lots of options to choose from that any one of them doesn't take very long, but together they give you quite an arsenal of options to kind of address this kind of assault on our wellness.
I got really excited when you talk about writing yourself a letter for self-compassion. That's very much in the vein of the narrative medicine work
Oh yeah.
that I get to help caregivers um, utilize to help with their compassion fatigue, burnout, exhaustion, etc.
Yeah.
And it is like you said. I sit there thinking it's so low maintenance, right? The biggest cost to you is 7 or 10 minutes because anybody can sit there and write a letter. We spend how many probably elapse hours per day typing out messages on our phone. Why can't we sit down for the good of our psyche and our soul and our mind and write a 10-minute letter to ourselves about how how we're experiencing things and hopefully processing some of that. Um,
Yeah.
I always base a lot of what I do on the work of James Pennebaker and the therapeutic writing to heal processes. It's amazing how much benefit you can get from just a small, as you said, intervention.
Marcus, you're well informed, my friend, because so Jamie Pennebaker was one of my mentors in graduate school.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
I
Okay.
learned a lot from him. He was also my wife's advisor, graduate advisor. He's a character. I love Jamie, and his work is really profound. And again, he's shown that using 3 or 4 doses of kind of 15 minutes worth of 20 minutes worth of writing, you get these treatment level effects, these therapeutic effects for your well-being. And in that case, it can be everything from sleep quality to PTSD symptoms to depression and anxiety. Those are really neat interventions. That's we've done a lot of that in healthcare workers. We've used his expressive writing kind of techniques in healthcare workers, and they like it. They like the opportunity. What I find to be difficult even today is to convince healthcare workers that they need to stop and take time for themselves. And so there's this ever shrinking window of how long we have of their attention span or how much time they're willing to give to do something for themselves. And that's why you can take the concept of bite size too far, but we're still learning how to make it engaging and interesting, but also keeping it evidence based and keeping it a meaningful amount or meaningful dose of time. And that's ongoing work that we're doing, at Duke, and it gives me a lot of hope because signs point to this is just going to get better. It's just going to get more evidence behind it, and we're going to have more options for people to choose from as time goes on.
It is an exciting thing. I thought that in healthcare overall today, it seems like exhaustion, burnout, compassion fatigue, lack of engagement, all those things are prevalent.
Yes.
Your findings here give hope and make me think that there is going to be a way out of this for caregivers and systems alike.
Yeah, I believe that science races to meet the needs of the moment, and in the sprint, the pandemic kind of did some real damage to our wellness. But in the marathon, science is going to win. And that gives me a lot of comfort. And it's not just our work. It's there's fantastic work on this at Mayo and at Stanford and at Dartmouth. And so the knowing the characters involved in this adventure, it I think there's reason to just be optimistic about what the future holds for well-being. We do need to be patient because making it scalable and making it more accessible and making it more evidence-based, those things take time. But uh, science is on our side.
Uh, we're going to get there. We're going to
Yeah.
get there. I read in your bio that one of the things that you like is Audible books.
Very much.
Same thing with me. And currently, I'm reading The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil,
Ooh, yeah.
and it is really gives me a lot of hope for the future that that we're not on the path global path to destruction, but again that science and technology and nanotechnology and genetics and robotics are going to win out, and we are going to actually see this idyllic future that is possible right now, but it might be hard to see it. So that was just what I thought of at that time. What are you currently reading right now?
What am I currently reading?
Yeah.
I Let me see. You're going to make me look because I just started something new. What did I just start? I'm opening Audible here while we're doing the recording. I just downloaded. I'm going to make this political, Marcus. I just downloaded Enough by Cassidy Hutchinson.
Okay.
So we'll see. I haven't started it yet, but that's next in my queue.
I'm not familiar, so I'm going to have to Google that after we talk.
Well, she testified in the January 6th committee, and
Gotcha.
yeah,
Oh yes, yes.
yeah,
Now I'm
that
picking up
Cassidy
on the name.
Hutchinson. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. So I don't know if you know this, but one of my roles, I get to teach pre-meds at Notre Dame, and their
Nice.
first assignment of the semester, um, they're always posed with a question that is based upon my experience, my story,
Okay.
and that is that the night that they rolled me into the ER, there was a 20-year-old patient care tech who held my hand the whole night
Mm,
and uh, gave me the most comfort she could simply by saying, "I'm here." And
yeah.
I always my message is that simple human presence is the cornerstone of caregiving. And so the first writing, reflection writing for the semester is for the students to share about a time that someone has been there for them,
Mm.
or that they have been there for another. And so whenever I give you that idea for a writing prompt, does something spring to mind about a time that someone has been there for you, or that you have been there for another person during their suffering?
Yeah. First of all, I love that you're doing that with medical students. We should all, be given these kinds of reflective prompts to make sure that we're kind of growing at those important times. Let me just say I've done I've used the expressive writing prompt on myself a number of times, so often that I've probably done this activity maybe 3 dozen times
Mhm.
myself, and for the last kind of 5 times, it's always been my wife. My wife is a therapist. Everyone should be married to a therapist if they're lucky. What's interesting is I haven't shared it with her,
Mm.
but in listening to you now, I'm like, I should probably go back and grab those writings and package them up and make them a holiday gift to her.
Is there a specific instance when she's been there for you that comes to mind? It's
Um,
kind of hard, I know, whenever you're married for a while and you got kids and family to pick out a single time, but
Yeah, you could talk about when you're dating or when you're kind of getting to know each other and just feeling seen and heard. But really, I think that for me right now, uh, what is it that she's done that's so amazing is she's willing to keep working with me so that I can be a better listener and I can be more present. And that's after 20 plus years. I just have so much appreciation for what she does.
I hear you. I hear you. Whenever I am doing these kinds of activities, and think of something that you're grateful for. Think of 5 things that you're grateful for. Well, the
Hmm.
5 things are always my wife. All 5. All 5 will be my wife.
Yeah, and it's not just because she might listen to this recording.
No, not right. And it's not just because she's sitting here. That's truly what I do.
Yeah.
What else in healthcare is on the horizon that makes you hopeful or excited?
Oh yeah, there's some really neat research, Marcus. That we're doing it right now, looking at what are called well-being profiles. So, we can measure like you have a personality profile.
Mhm.
You have a well-being profile that would predispose you to do some things for your well-being, but perhaps not other things for your well-being, and being able to tailor well-being interventions to the need of an individual using their well-being profile. That's an exciting area of research in the future. Right now, we can do something really simple where we kind of know how hard a given intervention is for someone to do. And basically right now it's how severe is your burnout, and the more severe your burnout, the more we give you very, very, very simple things to do. And if you're just kind of moderately burned out or not very burned out at all, we can give you more difficult things. I'll give you an example. Like gratitude's a really easy thing to do. You can be super crispy and pause and do a 7-minute kind of dose of gratitude and feel better for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, which is great. So 7 minutes, 2 months of benefit. It's pretty straightforward and easy. There are other interventions like humor, like cultivating humor and amusement and seeing the irony in a situation that it's harder to do. It's not as easy to kind of activate humor in people that are really crispy. So we basically right now can guide different levels of burnout to different like levels of difficulty in well-being interventions. But in the future, in the near future, we'll ask you a quick set of maybe 8 to 10 questions, provide you with a profile of your well-being, and then recommend specific interventions based on your profile.
That is exciting. That is exciting.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. Watch this
That's
space for sure.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. And so, I guess my last real question for you is if you had the opportunity to have the world's largest billboard on the world's tallest mountain, what's the message that you would broadcast to all of humanity?
What is the message for all of humanity? Boy, that's an interesting one. Let me. I would have to say, uh, um, the bullet point would be something like "It's going to be okay," and then the sub bullet is going to be uh, because science is going to fix all of this.
Mm, mm. Trust in science. Science is going to fix all of this. Yeah, I like it. I like it. That's fantastic. Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. This has been exciting, and I love it whenever I get to laugh during a podcast too. So, thank
Me
you so
too.
much for your time and your wisdom and your insight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners, for being with us on this episode of Compassion and Courage Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel. Again, this is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Please visit marcusengel.com for keynote speaking needs, compassion consulting, book signings, all of those kind of fun things. And we will see you all next time on Compassion and Courage.